Aloha and good morning from Hawaii. My name is Jürgen Steinmetz, joining you from our breaking news show today. Today is June 21, a beautiful Tuesday here in Hawaii. It's beach weather and it's sunny. It's only 8 in the morning. I know in Europe you had the longest day today. So I know it's also a lot of sunshine in Europe. And just before we start with our event, and this is going to be quite exciting today because we're going to welcome the international president for Skal International, Berçin Turkan, joining us from Izmir in Turkey. And before we get there, Peter, how's the weather in College Station and how's everything? Give us a short summary on the news today.
Yeah,
Thank
I'm
you.
going to make it real fast today because I don't want to go into everybody's time. But first of all, howdy from Texas. We are also having a heat wave here. It's been over 100 degrees, or that's 40 degrees Celsius, for about the last 4 or 5 days, and it will continue for another 5 days. So if you like hot weather, Texas, which usually has hot weather, has very hot weather. It would be a beach day in College Station, except we have no beach. So that's the only problem. But other than that, we're in good shape. Today's been a very interesting day. I'm going to just speak about issues that are touching the tourism industry. And there are a few. First of all, there's a big problem around the world, and that is with airlines canceling or either postponing, canceling, suspending, or now a number of airlines are starting to cancel flights. So in other words, just say they're not going to that particular city anymore. And that's a big problem. It's there's a lot of reasons for that. We don't have time to go into all of the reasons, but this is an issue that's being felt across the United States and across much of Europe. And of course, today is the longest day of the year. So again, there's lots of daylight, but there are also very few flights. To add to that little confusion in the European continent, Belgium is having a national strike, which has caused Brussels airport to be closed. So one of Europe's major airports is not functioning today. And that's also going to add another little bit of a twist. Two other things that we need to be thinking about in the tourism industry. As everyone, I think, in the world knows, there's inflation hitting many parts of the world, and that's going to impact the tourism industry. We're already starting to see the first signs of that cutback, and that's going to be something that the tourism industry is going to have to develop a way to get people to want to spend money for non-essential items. And obviously, travel and vacations, as important as we all think they are, you're not going to give up medicine for your children or food in order to go on a trip. So that's going to be an issue. Having said that, right now we're on prior to that because in many parts of the world, tourism appears to be booming, but it's kind of a soft outer layer with some real problems in between. So it's like seeing a beautiful apple that's rotten at the core. And that's something we're going to have to think a lot about. So inflation is a real threat. Of course, the war in Ukraine continues to be a threat. And today, if you've been keeping up with the news, there was the first skirmishes between the United States and Iran. And therefore that, I'm not saying there'll be an all-out war. I don't want to, alarm anybody, but there were some skirmishes today, and that could lead to more problems across the Middle East. So that would be another issue that we're going to have to think a lot about. Having said that, right now in much of the world, hotels are booked. Lots of cities are facing over tourism again, which is great after the COVID-19 vaccine crisis. On the other hand, we're starting to hear more and more about the potential, which I don't think will be as serious as they're making it out to be. I think it's probably a bigger scare, but I could be wrong, about the monkey virus. And will that mutate into some other form of virus that we're unprepared for? We do have a way to protect ourselves against that because if you had a smallpox vaccine, that will help you tremendously. The problem is that smallpox vaccines have not been given out now for the last 30 years or so because smallpox was basically eradicated. So older people, such as Jürgen or me, were protected, but younger people are not protected. And we may have to restart the smallpox vaccine as a protection. So that's the news in summary. The real issues, I think, are issues of transportation, issues of inflation, issues of very strong potential for recession, In the United States, we probably are in a recession. The government doesn't want to admit it. They claim a recession is defined as 2 quarters of negative growth. We had 1 quarter, and this year they're playing a game and they're saying it was 0 growth, so they don't have to declare it a recession. But anyone who's breathing or alive knows that's just not true. The United States goes into recession, much of the world goes into recession. So that may be a problem of rising inflation and lower number of jobs that will become available. So what does that mean? It means the tourism industry's got to really be creative, come up with new ideas, and have ways for people to get the most value for their money, because if not, they won't travel. So let's not just think about the good moment right now. Let's plan for what may take in the future. So that's news in a very quick summary. I hope this is going to be a really great session, and we come up with some really creative ideas. So I'm going to turn it back to you all, and howdy from Texas.
Thank you very much, Peter, for your insight. And yes, the tourism industry right now is actually booming. I can see it here in Hawaii. We're full. Flights are very expensive, and people are spending the money. So there are some really good outlooks as well. It's not, of course, we're all going into doomsday, but we have to be careful. But today we're going to introduce an organization that is actually doing business with friends, and they really count on everyone in the travel industry to be together in one club and one friendship, and that is the Skal organization. Many of you that are in the travel and tourism industry, of course, know Skal. For those that are joining us and don't know Skal, just a real quick summary. Skal is actually the oldest travel association in the world. And Bertrand, and I will introduce here in a second, who can tell us a little bit more about it. But Skal is all about doing business with friends. I know everyone is probably familiar with the Rotary Club, and Skal is pretty much kind of the same as the Rotary Club, but for leaders in the travel and tourism industry. And we're very privileged and this is a global organization, and Bertrand can tell us how many Skal places there are in the world, and they're clubs. So they're little individual clubs that work on a local basis, but make a global impact through the global situation of this organization. Bertrand Turkan is the global president for Skal. She's an American from Atlanta, originally from Turkey, and she's in her originally old home country right now. She's joining us from Izmir in Turkey. And I have to say, I'm so jealous. Turkey is one of my favorite places. And for those that haven't traveled to Turkey yet, really put it on your bucket list, because it's a place worth seeing. And welcome to the Breaking News Show, Bertrand. We're really privileged to have you here. How are you?
Thank you very much, Jürgen. I'm doing very well. Thank you. Yes, I'm on a tour now, we can call it. So it started first week of June. I have started visiting some of our Skal clubs in Europe. I started with Germany, Hamburg, and Skal Germany have been having their German Skal Days event and their annual general meeting in Hamburg. Hamburg President Hubert Neubacher hosted me very well. We had a great time there. After that, I went to Malta. I joined the Mediterranean Tourism Forum, and it was really, really interesting, very exciting. There were 7 tourism ministers there, 2 country presidents. There were 1,200 delegates from different countries. And I was invited to speak at a forum with the Malta Tourism Authority and the European Union Deputy Tourism Minister. It was a great exchange. The discussion was about the future of tourism, what is going to be next. And as we're all talking about, we've been talking about the future the past 2 years, but the future is now here. So as it's here, what do we do now? As everything is disrupted in the industry, we've talked about how can we put the pieces back together and how the policymakers should work in the advantage of tourism industry, because this is really an exciting time. Actually, yes, the pandemic was horrifying for the industry and all that, but now, this has happened and we are facing the facts. Now as tourism leaders around the globe, we have to sit down and see how can we rebuild the industry, and we have a chance to rebuild this. So as Skal International, being the largest international organization around the globe, we are existing in 84 countries. We are in 317 cities with 317 chapters. I would not compare us with Rotary. It's a great organization, and we are also in a similar functionality, but we are hosting all of the branches of the travel and tourism industry within our organization, and we are our members are decision makers. So, and our members are currently identifying that this is a time of change with the pandemic 2 years that we went through, with the changes in the industry, the shift in the human resources in the industry, the technology coming in and taking over pretty much in the industry. That's the future, and that's been the major discussion in the Mediterranean Tourism Forum as well. You know, the metaverse is a hot topic that is discussed. So as Skal International, we are watching all these changes, and we are, you know, trying to adapt our organization to these changes. And the major important factor here that we all have to consider, and that's what we're discussing among ourselves with the committees that we have established at the beginning of this year, you know, engaging all of our members, working, finding solutions. We need to look into what's in the futures. You know, we are an oldest organization, like you said. We've been existing for 9 decades now. I mean, our Skal Paris Club is celebrating their 19th anniversary. It's, you know, in 2 weeks. So this is very important. But for us to exist another 9 decades, you know, as an organization, we need to adapt ourselves to the changes. So we need to appeal to the future generation. And for that, you know, we're looking on this, you know, what are the expectations of the future generation? And as an organization, because we are so big, you know, and we have a certain structure of, you know, governance models. So we are looking into, you know, a certain transition, certain changes in it, so we can make it appealing to the future generation. Because, you know, we are a membership organization. We can only exist as long as we have members. So, and the future, we need to be aware of what's coming up. And that's what we are doing with all of the committees that, you know, we have established this year. We've been working and watching the changes and, you know, coming up with solutions, because the future, it's in our hands. We can shape it up. And as the leaders of this industry, that's our responsibility. That's what we need to do.
And Bertrand, everyone can tell Bertrand is really, really motivated, and she's very fast, and that's what we need in this industry. And she has to be very fast because there's only a 1-year term in Skal for presidency. I see the former president Holhab from Istanbul also joining us. Welcome, Holhab. I worked with her extensively many years ago when she was president. And we're very glad to have Bertrand, because you only have 1 year, and now it's half of the year's already done. So as you reach the middle of your term, how do you feel about it so far?
Well, I actually feel pretty good, I have to tell you, because so as I've been, you know, visiting the countries, and now, you know, I promised, you know, the membership that I will be a transformational leader, and I promised transparency. I promised open communication, and that's what we've started the year, you know, putting all the clubs in line, you know, setting up Zoom sessions, and, you know, putting out the goals for this year, setting up these committees. We have 8 committees. We have over 150 colleagues join these committees and working together, supporting the executive board reaching these goals. And you know, we are in month 6. You know, and as I visit the clubs and make additional communications, I'm preparing a presentation every time I go. What have we achieved so far? So, because at the beginning of the year, we put out the goals. We had 3 main goals. You know, it's a restructure of the governance, a better fiscal and financial policies, and strategic development of membership. And I give them an update where we are, what we have achieved. And I can tell you, we are at 70% of our goals achieved. And the most important one has been the restructure of the governance. And this has been a topic that has started to be discussed, you know, last year during the 2nd year of the pandemic, during our past president, Bill Rehume's term. And there was a small committee set up. And this year, we decided to open this important topic to a committee established from, you know, members from all around the Skal countries, where, you know, this topic can be discussed different ideas can be approached to find the best model moving forward for Skal International. Because, the world is changing, the pandemic is changing the industry. So our governance at the top does require some updates. It's very normal, very healthy for the organizations every 10, 20 years to sit back and review how they're running their, organization. And this committee has done a great job. They accomplished their work. They submitted their plan. And now we have an exciting time in front of us in Skal International. And on July 7th, we are holding an extraordinary General Assembly. So the new plan went out to the membership, to the delegates for review. Now we are holding some meetings with all the national committee, the global leaders in Skal, and just to answer the questions and go over the plan. But my job as a president is just, there's a plan that is put out by a group of colleagues who have been past presidents in the organization, who have been, international councils, who have been past international council presidents. And they, put out a work, also getting a support and some professional work from an outside consulting, so a third party. They prepared a proposal, they put it in front of us. So as the president and the executive board, our responsibility is to put this forward to the membership. And that's what we are doing at this extraordinary General Assembly that's coming. And that's a very exciting time for us, because the organization is going to make a decision, to change the governance, accept the change moving forward, where it is really different structure than what we have right now. It brings more participation from countries around the globe to have more say at the table. So yeah, I do see it as an exciting time, and I know that we do have some concerns of some of our members in the organization, because change is there isn't you can't predict everything, and it does fear some of the members how the change what is going to bring. I see change as an opportunity. As I said, we are going through the times of changes, and we have the opportunity to reshape the future of the industry as well as our organization. So this committee has done a work doing a benchmark of the large associations around the globe, right? So we are modernizing with this change, if the membership is going to accept. If they will not accept, we will be continuing with our current model. But it's very healthy that we bring up a new plan. We all discuss it, because we're all professionals. We are all, great brains. We have 12,500 members. So it's very normal that we, come out and discuss, what could be the better model for Skal International or not. So we're going to make this decision. So it's exciting times ahead of us.
No, I can see this. And as I said, your energy is fascinating, how you move this forward.
Thank you.
And I think Skal is really positioned rightfully and correctly. And hopefully there will be more Skal clubs around the world. And for those, again, that don't know Skal that well, just go to skal.org and you can find out everything about Skal. And if you wanted to start your own club in your region, and if there isn't a club yet, otherwise you can join this club. What do you need to do? How do you start a club, Virgin?
Well, there is a requirement of 15 professionals, industry professionals that qualify, within the categories that we have to come together, and they need to get a local approval from the local government to start, a local club. There are certain procedures, but our headquarters has a step-by-step guideline. So whenever there are leaders who are interested to start a Skal club, we immediately send them that kit, how to start a Skal club, and we provide them one-on-one, consulting. And actually, a great information, in Malta at the Mediterranean Tourism Forum. So as I said, there were tourism ministers. So we have now 2 clubs to be starting in Morocco. So the former tourism minister and the current parliament member was there with us, and he was very excited to find out more about Skal, and he is now dedicated to start. He says he wants to start 2 clubs. We're good with 1, but he wants to start 2. So that's exciting. And then also Malta, we used to have a club there. It was closed down in 2002, but now they're interested to restart the club. So that's very exciting. So what happens is, those leaders come together and submit us their request, and we send them the paperwork, they finalize it, and we put it to work. And we recently have a new club that started in Europe. It's Northern Macedonia. And in India, we do have 2 new clubs that just started. And, the Skal India is working really hard. They have reached, over 1,200 members now. They're becoming one of the largest national committee, and they have 2 more clubs, in the works. It's very exciting times, after the pandemic, seeing all of our members engaged, bringing in new clubs. And this is matching our, 3rd goal, which was increasing the membership. And at the beginning of the year, that was the call that we made as executive board. We said, we need to grow Skal strategically instead of just focusing on our club members to, push their numbers, recruiting new members. We need to go out. There are 10,000 cities around the globe. We are only existing in 317. There's such a big potential. So let's go out and start new Skal clubs. Let's use our members' connections in other cities and start a new club, and also new countries. So we already have, 40 countries that it isn't our target. There are no Skal clubs there, and we want to start a Skal club. So this is the way that we are, accomplishing our goal of growing membership. And in terms of, financial and fiscal policy, so what we've done is, so far we've already saved the organization of about over 30,000 euros a year by reviewing our, suppliers that we work with and, recontracting them, and that already provided a savings. So, and we are continuing, with that work as well. So far, with the goals, accomplishments, I would say, we are up to 70%, and we still have some exciting stuff coming up for the next 6 months.
Yeah, and you mentioned a few times senior members, because Skal is known as having senior members as members. So it's an organization of leadership, but it doesn't mean you exclude young people, because there is young Skal. Tell us a little bit more about young Skal.
Well, yes, young Skal categories. Well, Skal is actually the first and, formally, probably the only organization that systematically invests in the future leaders of the industry. So, and we call them young Skals, and we do have the young Skal student category, which is targeting, those who are studying hospitality and travel and tourism subjects, in the university. So, and they have the ability to become a Skal member. It's a great opportunity for those, future leaders, because they are the future leaders. They get the opportunity to meet the decision makers in the industry. Every club has their own structure and approach for young Skal, but we do have that category. And some clubs have, great mentorship programs for the young Skal students, which allows them to come and know more about the industry, and, get engaged with Skal and its network. So especially during these times, I have to tell you where we are seeing the shift in the human resources. That's a big danger for our industry that has been discussed lately, in many of the forums that I've been participating in, including human resources platforms globally. So because of the shift, people leaving our industry, in the future, there's a big fear of, on the service, because as you know, especially in high-star hotels, the service standards are very important, and you need to have the consistent staff. And that's, that's not happening right now. And the schools, the hospitality schools, some of them are closing down their departments. So with that, I think as an organization, Skal International, we are fulfilling our responsibility, reaching out to these young, generations and inviting them to join our organization. This way they get to know the key people in the industry, and we give them a hope that, there is a good future that they could achieve in this industry with the help of this great network that we are providing. This is open for any young person who is studying hospitality, travel, and tourism.
Yeah, and since we started, you may have noticed I changed my background from EEEE News to WTN. And those that also don't know WTN, it's the World Tourism Network. It's an initiative we started, and many of you are part of our network, and we've been working with everyone, including Skal, and our initial rebuilding travel discussion, what started in March 2020 on the sideline of a canceled ITB. And we're fortunate to have people in 128 countries discussing how to rebuild the travel industry. And travel industry is now maybe booming from visitors' arrivals in some parts of the world, but it's not rebuilt yet. And looking at the pandemic and looking at some of the initial issues you just mentioned, like staffing, for example, what is a big problem here in Hawaii. I mean, yesterday I went to a restaurant and it was half empty and they wouldn't seat me. And I said, why wouldn't you seat me? Well, we don't have enough staff.
Yeah.
And that is a problem, not only here locally, it's a problem everywhere in the world. So
Yes.
with this all hit by everyone hit by the pandemic, how do you see the role of Skal can play in the industry recovery and the recovery of your members?
Yep. So as I said at the beginning of the year, we have initiated some certain committees, and these committees are working hard on the issues that the pandemic has brought to us. For example, we do have the Advocacy and Global Partnerships Committee. This committee has been working on sustainability topics. So this is the hot topic in the industry right now, and remember at the beginning of my conversation, I said, as the organization, we are looking what the future is going to be like. And, and for that, as being a membership organization, we need to already look into the future, who's going to be our target audience and what are their characteristics. So we have the millennials now taking the reins, and we have the Gen Z coming in, and their characteristics, are very important for us to look into. And when you look into the characteristics of this new generation, all of them, they care for the environment. So for them, sustainable, choosing destinations or hotels or sometimes a restaurant, even a coffee shop, they look into, what are they doing to contribute for the environment? So with that, for example, this committee with their sustainability subcommittee, they're working on a sustainability toolkit that they will be sharing with all of our local clubs, and they will be sharing it with the local industry, with the hotels and all the service industry that can help them, to be a player within the industry, considering, the sustainability rules, because that is the key. The future is, it's the discussion is always in the platforms, the luxury market is going to survive. And, what's going to happen is, there will be also the model of Airbnbs, but then the other concept that will survive and will be getting a high demand is the niche market, or niche hotels, anything that provides, an authentic experience to their customers, their guests. So with that, I think our sustainability subcommittee and the toolkit that they are producing, it's going to be really important for the industry. Another one is, we're working with ECPAT and the code. There is a subcommittee we have, the sexual exploitation of children, that's been a topic from the past. So as we are rebuilding the industry, they are also working on certain projects that can be initiated in this transition of the industry. Another topic is, the issues that pandemic brought to the industry. So they are preparing, actually working on an emergency protocol. So next time, when we are going through a pandemic, or next time when we are, going through a natural disaster, what should be the travel and tourism industry, from the government perspective, from the private sector, smaller establishments, what should be the first step, second step, third step to take on, and how should we reconnect and work in this together? So these are the projects that are in the works, and that will be introduced to the industry and shared with our, our partners, through our partners, as well as, through our clubs, where they are, connecting with their communities, with the industry, to help them to rebuild the industry after the pandemic.
Yeah, and you brought up a very important organization here, and I wanted to explain a little bit more about ECPAT.
Yeah.
Some of you know that I have been serving for more than 10 years on a committee at the UNWTO what dealt with sexual exploitation of children. So it's one of the most important topics, not only today, even more so today with the pandemic and the industry weakened, but always has been important. And ECPAT is an organization, it's based in Thailand, with offices also in New York and other parts of the world that have been leading this fight against sexual exploitation of children, human trafficking, and so forth. And it becomes even more important to work with this organization after the current Secretary General from the UNWTO actually eliminated our committee that had been very successful under many of the former Secretary Generals, including Dr. Talib Rifai. and it was just wiped out. And it is not a subject you should wipe out from the global perspective, specifically on the UN level. So it's really up to us, our organizations, ECPAT, Skal, the World Tourism Network, WTTC, and many more, to step in and keep this issue alive and fight this issue, because it is probably one of the most important and dark side in the travel and tourism industry. Now, before we go to...
I want to point out that not only is it to children, but there's a huge market now for sexual capturing of women and of men. And there's large numbers of men who have now been enslaved through much of the world, and huge numbers of women who are being trafficked as sexual objects. So all three areas, children, women, and men, have to be looked at.
Yeah, no, it's human trafficking is an issue.
In general.
And you believe it's not only an issue in countries that are maybe more keen for this problem, it's also an issue in countries like the United States and the UK and many other parts of the world. It's an issue for the cruise industry. It's an issue for the hotels, for the aviation industry. Everyone is involved here and everyone has to work together, because no one wants this part of tourism. Now, before we open it up for more questions and comments, just one last point, and you kind of made this point already, but from your leadership perspective, what is the biggest impact you foresee in the transformational change proposed at Skal? Because you mentioned some of the initiatives you are initiating within the organization.
Right. Well, as I said, this plan is not my plan, or the executive board's plan. This is a plan that is coming from a governance committee that was established, that had 15 members, global members who were past presidents, past international council president, international counselors. So they're all, or area committee presidents currently acting. So they're all, highly involved in the organization. So this is a plan that they have proposed in the works together with a third-party consulting company that gave them a benchmark study looking into what globally is done. So based on that, it is more of a attempt to introduce a modernization to our organization. In our organization, we have the executive board that has 8 members, which is 6 members that are represented, coming entering the executive board as directors and moving up to vice president and president, and then we have the CEO and the International Council president. But below that, we have the International Skal Council, which is an advisory body only to the executive board, and the representatives in the International Council are, are representatives of their countries, and they're transitioning the information that comes from the executive board to their countries' national committees. So now the new plan is actually, in a way, proposing that, these 2 bodies become one body, where, the International Council, because they have no, they're only an advisory body, pretty much elevating them to being joined with the executive board, where, every region within Skal identified based on a geographical status or the membership numbers, because we are a membership organization, there needs to be some parameters when you are, identifying the regions. And that's how it's done in many of the organizations, that, when they identify their board of directors, their members, they go based on the geographical location plus the membership numbers. And that's the model that this governance committee has taken. So they are proposing for a kind of a board of directors, but it's still going to be called an executive committee, where, there will be 14 regions represented on this board. And basically all of these representations, unlike in the International Council now, they will have votes, where, right now it's only up to 6 people on the executive board to make a decision for the entire organization that, is selective from, different countries around the globe within Skal. This model is proposing this to expand it to 14 members, where there will be more say of the regions directly at the table when a decision needs to be made. So basically, the International Council is becoming more of a decision-making body. But of course, as I said, there needs to be some parameters, and based on the geographical and, the membership numbers, they are identified, and they are having a seat at the table. So, and this is this model. I see this model. I like this model when it's proposed because, this is going to enforce us to have more leadership, more leaders coming out of these regions. Right now, we are limiting ourselves with 6 leaders potential moving up, but we are such a large organization. We are in 84 countries, 12,500 members. We need to be able to produce more leaders, and the more leadership you have among them, moving up to the top for the vice president and, the presidency, we will have a higher quality of, leadership. And, as when you bring all these great minds, they will produce greater ideas. So we want to elevate the level, within Skal. And I see, this model is going to achieve this goal. And this will also excite, a lot of the members around the globe, because it will give more opportunity for those who want to take a leadership role, because there is a better opportunity. And another thing this plan is bringing is there is a deputy system. So when we have these 14 members on the executive, on the new board represented the directors. So the crisis that we were having within Skal was, when, and it started with, if we lost an executive board member, he passed away. So then we had suddenly a position available, and instead of an election, because it was, the timing wasn't, allowing that, there was an appointment. So the structure has, has been affected. So with this new system, it's proposing to have deputies. So anyone who is, who has the highest second vote in the director elections, they will be ready. If someone resigns or due to health has to leave, the deputy takes over. So another, highlight of this plan is it is proposing continuity. And how is that proposing it? The committees that we have initiated this year, they are proposing these committees to be consistent. So consistently producing projects, working with this, executive committee. And it's going to be also a pool of candidacy for the directorships. So another, advantage of this new plan that I like is it is proposing in terms of the financial control, because some of the members and clubs have been having, many questions about, the expenditures, on Skal International, which is rightfully. So they're looking on more, how can we more in having a controlling eye, etc. So yeah, the way for it is, besides having more people at the table as a decision makers and reviewing everything, there is the auditors now. They will be doing a real-time audit. Now it's like they are reviewing, a year past, but they will be able to do a real-time audit. So this will give a hands-on, constant observation of our finances as well. So, so pretty much, this new plan, I find it exciting because it is creating an opportunity for, the next generation to come in as leaders in the organization. It will allow the national committees, those regions, to develop their own succession plan to produce regions, to produce new leaders. So with that, I find it exciting, and also giving more decision-making opportunities for the countries, within Skal at the table. So we're eliminating the layers in between, and all these countries and regions are becoming decision makers at the table.
No, thank you. Bertrand, very exciting. Before we now, anyone who has any questions or comments, you can raise your hand, and before we get to you, you can do that now, and we can see this here. You don't have to put anything in the chat for us, because for me it's really hard to see it. I'm doing this pretty much alone on the technical part. So just raise your hand, and we'd like to hear from you. But I'd like to just put 3 people on the spot here, if I may, and just going to forewarn them. One is Annette. She's joining us from Panama. Then there's Jorge. She's joining us, I believe, from Istanbul, or also Izmir, not sure. And right now I see the camera is on Snesana Static. And Snesana, I'm going to put you in the spotlight here. She's joining us from Serbia. So I don't know if there's a Skal club in Serbia, but I have the right person for you who should lead such a Skal club if there wasn't one. And Snesana is actually leading our educational group for the World Tourism network. She has been with us from the very first beginning and always has good comments and good ideas. So without asking you a question, I wanted to welcome you and see how everything is going in Serbia. I understand tourism is in the entire Balkan region, Serbia, Albania, Montenegro is quite active right now, isn't it?
Yes, good evening. Can you hear me?
We can hear you fine, Snisan.
Okay, lovely. Good evening. Tourism is really booming. For example, here in Belgrade, capital of Serbia, we have more tourists than we have in first half of 2019. So it means we have more tourists than we had before COVID-19. Belgrade especially, there are a lot of tourists from all over the world, and in Serbia as well, Montenegro, as you said, Albania. Really tourism is booming in this area because you know, frontiers are open, COVID problem is less and less, and climate is very good. It's plus 32 outside whole day today. So it is very, very good. And there are many events going on here in Serbia because during the summertime, in each part of the country, there are different events, musical events, cultural events, and gastronomic events. For example, in Belgrade, we had a very big gastronomic event, Wine and Dine, for example. So for last weekend, I can tell you that more than 20,000 people are at the main squares here in Belgrade trying domestic food and domestic wines and rakia, it means different kinds of brandy and such things. So you can see it's really, tourism is booming really. And I can tell you this last year and the year before where we were so sad and we didn't know what to do, it's getting better.
Well, I'm glad you can still talk to us after all this rakia and all these other good things going on. But it's I know the food is fantastic in Serbia, and I know the food is also fantastic in Turkey. And I like to welcome my good friend and former Skal International President, Hulha Aslantas, and she's joining us from Istanbul. And Hulha is actually running a company. I think you do inbound travel for groups, and you do groups and conventions and so forth. And are you in Istanbul, Hulha? Welcome.
Hi, everybody. Pleased to be here. Yes, tourism is booming also in Turkey, like everywhere else. I think we will surpass the numbers of 2019, as our colleague from Serbia just said. I think this is called revenge tourism so far. For sitting for 2 years at home, everybody is now willing to travel, willing to go out of their cages, I must say. So it's really doing great. And so is Skal. We are very excited about all the changes going on. And we are looking forward that Skal will make the right move this year so that we can be on the map and we have saying about the world tourism, because we have such a big energy under this organization that we have not been, it was like a hidden secret, Skal, for many years. But I think it's high time to bring it back on the map so that the world hears the world leaders in tourism and we can help to shape the new world.
Yeah, and I know your event in Antalya, I don't know how many years ago I attended. It was wonderful. And you've been very active when you were in charge of Skal, and you're still very active at Skal. Actually, you won an award recently in Malta. It's a lifetime achievement award.
That's right. I know this was such a surprise. Thank you very much. Yes, Lifetime Achievement Award. I was given by the president of Malta, and that was a great honor.
Thank you so much, Hulha, for being with us. And I wanted to introduce Annette Cardina. She's also with Skal, and I'm going to try to put her in the add her to the spotlight. And she's joining us from Panama. And actually, Annette is in charge of communication for Skal, and I'm part of the communication committee. I'm partly serve on this committee, and my to-go person, my boss, is Annette. Annette, welcome.
Thank you, Jürgen. I like the idea of being your boss, though. That sounds really good. No, but greetings from Panama. I think that this has been a great conversation today. I'm very happy that everyone joined. Here, I wanted to share with you that here in Panama, we also have a lot of tourism picking up. Not as much as I wish, but enough so that it's making a difference. Also, we are very active in the Skal movement, and I think this is a perfect moment for Skal to reorganize and start a new era post-pandemic, because there are so many of us here that are working so hard to get this industry back together. So I hope that we can get this changes going and moving forward with this. It's going to be a big difference for all of us. And you're doing a good job, Jürgen, okay? So far, so good.
Okay, thank you, boss. Appreciate it. And thanks for being part of this event. And again, anyone
I'd like to
who
say
has...
something here, Jürgen, since you brought it up. One of the things that really this year so far in the first 6 months, a difference we made is in our visibility. We have maximized our visibility in many platforms, and the committee that you're co-chairing, with Frank from San Francisco is doing a great job. But also our partnership with eTurbo News has definitely supported our visibility within the industry. So so that's thank you for that, and you're doing a great job, like Annette said, your boss.
Thank you very much, Bertrand. And anyone who wanted to say something or add something, you don't have to physically raise your hand like Neil, but we recognize Neil, so you can put your hand down. There's actually a button on the lower part of your screen. It says reaction. So when you click on reaction, you have a hand on the left side. Just click on that hand and it will show here. And then I know you wanted to say something. But Neil, tell us where you are, what your position is, and what your question or comment is.
Thank you, Jürgen. This is Neil Els. I'm from Skal South Africa Garden Route, and I'm also the former Skal councillor for South Africa. And first of all, I just want to thank you, Jürgen, for the way that you put Skal to the fore on social media, and especially on Facebook. It's really amazing. Thank you for what you're doing for Skal. This is really, really incredible. My question is to our president, Madame Bertrand. Happy belated birthday. I hope you have a fantastic time.
Oh yeah, happy birthday. Forgot about that. I saw that on Facebook.
And this is really exciting. This new proposal is really exciting. I'm just sad that we did not have the opportunity to discuss this at the council meeting last month, because I think this is so important for us and it's so exciting. I understand why, but I'm sorry that I was not part of that. My question is, and this is a fantastic proposal, I don't have a problem with it at all, but the 14 directors, who will foot the bill? Because the 6 or 8 directors, the 8 people on the executive at the moment is costing a lot of money for Skal. That is basically where the money goes. The ISC is different because we all pay for ourselves, or our clubs or our countries pay for us. But on the executive, for the directors, the traveling costs for at least 2 meetings, maybe this will change, but then there would be at least 1 meeting. Who will foot that bill? And to jump Eve, but could you give us some clarification there?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question, actually. Thank you for asking it. And I'm always prepared. As you know, I have something to show. Can I share my screen?
Yes, you can. Let me.
Jürgen? Yeah.
Yes,
So I'm going to show it. This is an information that is actually prepared to go out to the membership. And I did ask the same question to the governance committee. And I said, well, we need to set this straight in an understandable way, because, the governance committee has explained us this. This is going to save money for the clubs. So I'm going to share my screen. Here we go. So as you can see, actually currently in the current structure, the 7 executive board members, the CEO is not included because the CEO, as you know, has her own budget of travel. Based on 3 times traveling a year, the cost is, as you can see, is $94,500. Now, with the new board of directors of 14 members, and with 28 travel packages on average, the total cost is projected to be $126,000. So in the actual ISC, when you guys, as you said, it is, the national committees are covering the expenses for your travels when it's happening. The calculation is $180,000 a year. So in the old structure, the total cost of traveling was costing the organization $274,000. In the new structure, it will cost $126,000, and the savings that is proposed, and this saving will be on the clubs, $148,000, and this is about 15 euros per club that the saving will be. Now, of course, Skal International will be picking up the cost of the travels, and this is about 32,000 euros, which is, can be within our budget included with no issues. There is no expected high increases of Skal International dues, as you know. I did see some communications being circulated about that. That's not going to happen because it can already cover this expense within the current structure. So with that, it will bring a saving to the clubs, and I think that's the important part, because as you know, in International Council, in the past 12 years, I did look into the records, and it's been only 12 to maximum 18 countries that have been 14 countries that consistently has been sending representations to the meetings when they were actually happening before a pandemic. So during the pandemic with the Zoom meetings, yes, the participation has increased, but we're going back to traveling, and we're a travel organization. We have to enforce and promote traveling, because that's what we are all about. So with that, going back to it, the issue has been, the national committee is not funding the International Council's travels. So this model is actually providing a consistent participation of these representations at the table in the meetings and those, required meetings that will be happening. So, and with the saving at no cost, to the national committees. So I hope this chart explains that. This is going to be sent out to the membership as well. With the new PowerPoint presentation that is prepared based on the governance plan details.
Wow.
Are you still there, Jürgen?
Yes, I'm here. I'm speechless. Now you really have your plans together. So again, no one is raising hands here, so that means everyone is speechless. But you're welcome to do that. And since I don't see any hands, I want to put someone else on the spot here. And this is my good friend here locally in Hawaii, Pamela Taylor. And Pamela runs an organization. It's called Sun Island Hawaii, what's an inbound agency. And the changes we have here in Hawaii are quite significant and controversial, if not put it slightly, because we have a tourism board that is really not promoting tourism. It's actually doesn't want that much tourism. Tell us a little bit more about, Pamela, what's going on here. And welcome, aloha. You have to unmute yourself. You're still muted.
It's not okay, there you go. Greetings and aloha, everybody, and happy birthday, Birkin. Mine was June 5th. So Geminis rule the world, don't you know? So tourism here in Hawaii right now is very problematic right now. It's because of the fact that we have to face some generalities as we open back up to the world. Number one, we are reopening, and we like to use the term post-pandemic, but in actuality, the reality is that the pandemic still exists. And for us here in Hawaii, opening up to the world basically puts us in Hawaii in a situation where we don't have the resources that we need to manage during the pandemic via staffing, because tourism became such a taboo thing here in Hawaii right now. As tourism left for those 2 years, and upon returning, people saw it as an unsteady occupation and a means of sustainability for Hawaii. And the reason why is because of this. We were already in somewhat an upheaval with the Kama'aina, the locals, or the indigenous people of Hawaii, as right now as far as being good stewards to the Aina meaning land here in Hawaii. So within those 2 years, when the pandemic happened and there was no travel immediately for a good 6 to 8 months, it kind of basically justified, as the land healed on one term, as the land healed, that this is what Hawaii, what the locals wanted. This is what the Kama'aina wanted. This is what the indigenous people wanted. So when tourism opened up, we had to open tourism back to what we consider mainland United States, where old tensions and old frustrations came back to Hawaii, as far as desecration and disrespect of the land, and not, respecting the people of Hawaii, and mainlanders feeling that this is just another state, they don't have to treat it differently. It was basically different idealisms. As we've opened back up to the international community has come back, and they have an expectation of Hawaii that is right now Hawaii is failing to live up to. And where Jürgen has stated that our HTA is not really supporting tourism right now, they're getting pulled between two medians right now. They're getting pulled from the indigenous people and the local people who are crying, we need you to change the face of tourism in Hawaii. We want more responsible tourism. We want ecotourism. We don't want the heavy footprint, the heavy traffic in Hawaii anymore. We want you to respect areas that need to stay local, keep local movements. So Hawaii tourism is trying to appease those people. And then we're trying to appease the international community as far as HTA, who come back and says, why are there such restrictions? Why now, we have so many problems having beach weddings? Why is it that tours are getting canceled, such as Pearl Harbor, 24 hours before, and I booked it 6 months ago? And that is because of the fact that operationally, we're suffering as far as personnel, just as much as when I just went to IPW, which happened during my birthday, which was the week of June 5th. And the ills and the problems that Hawaii has, everyone in the international community is suffering. So it is about, for us, we're hoping that as we are learning to pivot, and as we're learning to see what it's like in a pandemic to be open tourism-wide, because Hawaii is considered the cornerstone or the foundation of what we know of as hospitality and tourism. How we can serve both evils. So as much as I struggle from HTA, they have a heavy kuleana. Kuleana in Hawaiian means responsibility right now, because they have a responsibility to the international community to service the global client, but they have a bigger responsibility to respect the cultural anchors and the people of Hawaii who want tourism to evolve, so to speak, where it is more stable and sustainable to the Hawaiian Islands. And it's
Yeah,
a
Pam.
hard task in itself. It's a hard task.
No, Pam, you summarized the issue quite well. And just for those that don't know, we can have a completely different session on this sometime soon, hopefully on Hawaii. The Hawaii Tourism Authority is under Native Hawaiian leadership, and they appointed their marketing agency also to be a nonprofit Native Hawaiian advocacy agency. So sometimes I have a feeling as a Hawaii resident, or kama'aina, as you say, that 5% of our population, or maybe up to 10%, has native blood. 5% are pure native, but they're 95% they're not. So there is a balance in interest and shift, but it becomes a whole different issue. And of course, the environmental issue is very important. And but thanks for your summary, Pam. I see one hand is up here, and no, two hands. So we're going to get to this. Let's get to John Rusich. John, let me put you on the spotlight here, and you can ask your question or add your comment. Thank you, Pamela. Go ahead, John.
Thank you very much. I congratulate you for doing this particular Zoom call. It's been very interesting to hear different comments. You know, I want to talk about some of the challenges that we face globally in the industry, and one is air transportation. I'd like to hear from folks around the world here. Here in the US, we seem to be having a dramatic problem in staffing shortages of pilots and so forth, where we're having thousands of flights canceled every day here in the US, okay? And that is having a significant impact on the travel industry from two perspectives. One, it is the service level, okay? And the second perspective is as you reduce capacity, you drive up costs, you drive up fares, again. And my deep concern is that we are going to have a continued pressure on airfares for travel. And if you're not in a country that has access to a drive market, but is driven by international air travel, the results are going to be pretty dramatic, I think. So I'd like to hear what's going on in other parts of the world with regard to the airline systems in those countries.
Jürgen and John, I just want to make a comment here real quick. Great to see you, John. You look wonderful. 2 weeks ago, I hosted Skal International Japan President Victor Osumi, and he is actually vice president for Delta Airlines and in Japan. And I did ask him the question, because that's the week when they were high in the media with all these cancellations. I said, what's going on? You guys are in the media. And he explained that of course, there is a surge in travel. And what happened is during the pandemic, he said they let go of certain airplanes, certain number of airplanes. So they sold them. So, and of course, they're at the process of, repurchasing. And at the same time, when they let the airplanes go, they also let the staff, the pilots go, some of them, and they rehired. But with the new airplanes coming in, there is a training process. And that's, and he was in Atlanta actually for a global meeting that they had in Delta, 800, people around the globe that came. And he said, so I said, so when are you expecting? Of course, it takes time to train the new pilots for the new airplanes and all that, and all the recruitment process. So he said, well, this summer is going to be tough, but we're going to be ready as of September. So the summer is going to be a tough ride, it seems like. But that's the information I have that I wanted to share. And he told me it's similar with other airlines. But I would love to hear other comments here.
No, this is definitely. Yeah, I'm sorry. John, also there was a question as where you're from and who you represent. I'm sorry, I forgot to ask you in the beginning.
I'm from New York. Again, I'm past president of New York. I'm also a past international auditor for the Skal organization several years.
Perfect.
But right now my status is I'm a member, and that's probably the most important status I have.
Yeah, and aviation, definitely, we should have another event on aviation alone, because I'm following a little bit the IATA event in Qatar, ongoing. I think it just finished, with a lot of the comments, a lot of the challenges. I don't think a lot of them were really addressed thoroughly. It was just painting kind of a colorful picture of the industry, but there are challenges, and I think we should talk about it. Maybe we can ask our head for aviation, VJ, who's based in Singapore, to lead another session on aviation. I think this would be quite interesting. Thank you very much, John. And yes, any comments or in regards to this issue in Skal are welcome. We have Jose da Costa. Tell us where you're from, Jose. You're on. Thank you.
Hello, Bershon. Hello, everyone. Sorry for my English, but I'm president of the Skal of Porto Alegre in the deep south of Brazil, almost the end of the world, and the deep south.
I've been there. You have I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I was invited to speak many years ago at the university in Porto Alegre. And I have that, and I know you have a lot of German names in your streets. So welcome. I know where Porto Alegre is. Welcome.
Yes, it's a very different Brazil, because we have here Portuguese, Italians, and Germans in our formation, if this word exists. But I'd like to talk about the clubs in Brazil. We are a little club in the deep south of Brazil, and we have now only 6 clubs in our country, and we lose 3 clubs in 2019. It's very hard to us pay everything, international taxes in euros, because our change is very unfair. It's happened with our friends in Argentina and other countries of South America. That's because I asked to Berchin, our president, please look a good view to Latin America, to South America especially, for the survivance of our clubs. And we try to resist to the hard times. Thank you for everyone, and Skal.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jose. And in fact, actually, the plan is starting, a membership drive and a push for the membership growth from Latin America after the extraordinary General Assembly that's going to happen in July. And I've been discussing with your region director Annette Cardenas. She's as responsible of your engagement area. We are in the plan of starting firing up Latin America, because you are so important for Skal. And yes, we are aware of the pandemic has affected you tremendously, especially the change the currency and the increase of inflation effects on the currency exchange. It does affect you. So we are looking onto ways how we can bring back support to the Latin American clubs, especially in Brazil. So thank you very much for participating tonight, and good to see you.
Thank you. And now we go to Arvind Nehr. I know who Arvind is, but maybe introduce yourself really quick, and welcome. I'm really good to see you. Please unmute yourself, Arvind. You're still
Good
muted.
evening, everybody.
Now we can hear you.
Thank you very much. My name is Arvind Nehr. I'm the founder and CEO of a company called Vintage Travel and Tours in Zimbabwe. I'd just like to give a comment as to what John had said about the airlines. I personally have been a GSA for Jet Airways for India, for Zimbabwe and South Africa for the last couple of years. What happened was when the COVID-19 pandemic hit the world, it took everybody and swept everybody off their feet. Nobody ever expected this kind of natural disaster to take place. Airlines had to really tighten their belts because the passenger occupancy really dropped drastically. For some of the airlines, they actually had to close their doors. Most of the airlines who are still operating, they quickly converted the passenger aircrafts into cargo aircrafts, carrying COVID-19 products all over the world. This is the first time I'm attending this event, and I would just like to say something. As long as we all hold hands of each other in good or in bad times, we all are going to pull through this pandemic. There are other pandemics coming through as well, but one has to look beyond the pandemics. One has to be a lot more innovative in the way one does business and in the way an organization is run as well. Thank you very much, Jan. It's actually quite an honor to be on this platform. I'll just also share something. I've just come back from India after 2.5 months. When I arrived in India, the first thing which hit me was the kind of people at the airport. I actually said to myself, wow, where have I come? There in India, every flight is full. You'll be surprised if you can see one seat empty in any airlines. Once again, I would just like to say to all my fellow associates, we all need to look outside the box in order to survive going forward. Thank you very much.
And thank you, Arvind, and you're a true survivor. Arvind has been one of our first members for the World Tourism Network, and he's leading our membership in Zimbabwe. And thank you for this and for all your good contribution. From Zimbabwe, let's go to Noro Didin. Tell us where you are, Noro. You raised your hand and welcome. And please unmute yourself. You're still muted.
Can you hear me now?
Now we can hear you. Go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. From Pakistan, I am Nuruddin, operating my tour and travel agency, Halil Coach. And it is my first meeting presenting here at WTN as a representative from Pakistan. I don't know, might be there from someone. And I'm just informing you from all aspects, Pakistan is open for everything of operating tourism activities in Pakistan, like adventure, culture, or whatsoever. I would welcome everyone and see you inshallah very soon. This is a short message for everyone because I'm here first time.
Thank you very much, Noro. And I know Pakistan is a beautiful country. Actually, we had a session on Pakistan about a year ago, and we should do that again. Stunning views. I've never visited Pakistan, but from the pictures I see and from the people and the food, I love Pakistani food. Actually, we're going to have an event at the Churchill Hyatt Hotel in London and we will send everyone more information on this. It's going to be before the World Travel Market, and there is a Pakistani restaurant. It's one of the places I really love. It's next to the Churchill in London. So we'll share more about this, but I'd like to welcome also Benjamin Quarchi. Benjamin, you raised your hand. Please let us know where you're calling from.
Yeah, thank you very much for the opportunity, and I'm really grateful to be here and joining this interesting conversation so far. I am connecting from Ghana in West Africa, and it's really interesting to be here. I've not heard of the club here in Ghana yet, and I'm looking for opportunities where we could extend the establishment of the club to Ghana, if not Ghana, West Africa. Tourism here in Ghana is very interesting because activities are going on normally, irrespective of the difficulties with the COVID situation. Everything was grounded in 2019, 2020, and we had difficult times where the hospitality industries were highly affected because of the travel restrictions and all that. But currently, tourism is going on well. People are able to travel in and out of the country, and there are a lot of social events going on in the country and different parts of the country, and it's going on in that direction. I particularly want to appreciate the team of members here, and I'm so glad and so much inspired to see a lot of elderly people here on this platform, and really thinking and coming up with more inspiring ways as to how to sustain our tourism industry for especially we the younger one. And I'm so much impressed, and I want to thank you all very much for that inspiring moments that you've given me and the other young ones on this platform. Thank you.
I think he's calling you old, Jürgen, not me. I'm not taking that opinion. It must be you.
I said we only have young people here. I'm sorry, you're on the wrong platform. No, it was. Thank you, Benjamin. I appreciate your comment, and we all know Ghana is where it all started, and we have direct flights now, I believe, from the United States also to Ghana. And it's definitely a place to visit and to go to.
And we have a Skal club in Ghana as well as in Zimbabwe. Yeah.
Oh, you do? Okay, wonderful.
Yes, we do, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, we have one more hand raising here, and we had Neil on before. I think we're over our time now, 20 minutes, but I think we have still a lot of people here, so it looks like no one is minding. But Neil, before we wrap up here, we give you the microphone once more. Go ahead, Neil. I think he's freezing. There we go.
The purpose for me to this meeting was the structural change proposed to Skal International, and which is a huge thing for all of us. And come on Friday, we need to go and vote on this, and we need to get all the information and answers, especially now that Birchen is on the platform. There are really a lot of questions, especially in South Africa, especially with regards to representation of the new proposed structure. And I do not have all the questions in mind. However, I would like, if you bear with me, to hand over the microphone to our newly appointed Skal International Councillor for South Africa, Fiona Angelico, to ask Birchen a question regarding representation for Africa. Please, Fiona, if you don't mind.
Yeah, let's do that. And then just so you know, Neil, we have set up national committee meetings, and we're holding a meeting with Africa, the clubs, you know, in Africa. They're all invited. I was checking on the date. I was going to tell you, you must have received it, I am assuming, but it is going to be next week. And the purpose is, you know, to go over the questions and, oh, here we go. It is June 24th at 10 a.m. Madrid time. So we did send out the invitation to, you know, all of the clubs in Africa. And this includes South Africa as well. Fiona is submitted, Fiona Angelico is submitted information. Marina Gola, Bimbo from Nigeria, Julie Debali from Kenya. They are all submitted the information for this Zoom meeting. And all the club presidents are copied in that as well, blind copied. They're all invited to join this meeting where we will discuss, you know, one-on-one further. This is just, you know, the Q&A is, yes, I'd like to answer any questions as well here, but we want to, you know, Jürgen is doing a work as a part of our visibility, so we're loving this. But yes, Fiona, you have a question about representation, and I think she did put that question on the chat box. Is she still here? If not, we can read the, oh, she's here. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I'm a little bit confused now. Fiona, is she
Fiona Angelico,
in?
you need to unmute yourself. Yes, she's here.
I don't see her picture though. Is it?
She's up on the screen.
Oh, okay. It's easy if you just raise your hand, whoever wants to speak. You don't have to go through someone else. You're always welcome to do that directly. But I found you now. So there we go. Go ahead, Fiona. Please unmute yourself. You're muted. Yeah, you're still muted. Okay, you might want to, there should be an unmute button on the left side.
Or you can write your question and we can read it and I can answer it.
I think she posted the question on the chat box.
Yeah, would you like to read it? If I'm trying to locate it. Oh, here we go. I see it.
I don't see it. Okay, yeah, there we go. No, she's ready. She's ready. Okay, go ahead, Fiona. Welcome. Go ahead.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Now we can hear you, yes.
Sorry, I can't hear anybody. I think I've had my ears on. I just wanted to ask a question. One of the things were that with the new organizational structure coming on board, would we have the opportunity to discuss maybe next week, not having, it says that we're going to take some of the current leadership forward with us when this is voted upon. The question is, should we not vote for everybody to be fresh and new? But you're meeting with us next week, so I think if we could pick it up then, Bertrand, it would be fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. And
that's okay a great
question. Yeah, absolutely. And that's a great question. And now, you know, there's one important thing here to mention. You know, we're within the structure. This is a big change, and this is also open for any adjustments. And you know, in the transition period, there will be a lot of adjustments to be made in the plan. But, you know, when we have the core change made, that will be an easier part. And in terms of the representation, what you're referring is some of our board members, you know, without election from this year to next year, having 1 year transition period being on the board and not elected. This is something that, you know, that could be, of course, our organization is built in a way that any question can be forwarded to the executive board, anything can be discussed, and any proposal can come to us and we can review it. This is the structure we have. So as you said, you know, we can definitely discuss this next week. And also the extraordinary General Assembly is a platform, you know, when proposals can be made from the floor as well, you know, for the adjustments and, you know, within the core plan. So this is open. I always say we are a very democratic organization, and the road for, you know, asking for changes and adjustments is always there. I mean, imagine this is a 9-decade-old organization, and throughout this time, how many times our statutes and bylaws have been adjusted and updated? There's been plenty of times that has been done, you know, so we've all witnessed it. I witnessed a major change in 2014 where all the statutes and bylaws have been restructured. So this happens, and it is healthy to happen. It's normal to happen because our environment is changing, the world is changing, and our stakeholders are our members, and we need to meet their expectations and needs, you know, based on the changing environment. That is our responsibility to adapt this organization to the changing world. So we will absolutely discuss this, you know, in the next week, and I'll be prepared to give you more specific answers. So, you know, so we can discuss this further. Thank you very much, Fiona.
Thank you, Fiona, and thank you, Bertrand. We're going to give you the last word, and thank you everyone for joining us today. This was, I think it was an interesting session. I really enjoyed it from my end, and we still have a lot of people watching. I see here on eTurbo News and our platform. We still have people here who didn't get tired. What is all good.
Yeah, it's all good. Jürgen, thank you very much. Yes, this was really fun. And right now, as you said, I am in Izmir. I was just telling at the beginning, and then we jumped on the topic. So I am on a kind of a, visit tours. So I was in Germany, started with Hamburg, then went to Malta, back to Bonn, where actually we have a Skal club there, and the new Skal Germany president is from Skal Bonn. So he hosted me there. It was a great meeting, and it was special for me because I lived 2 years in Bonn when my dad was a diplomat there. So it was really emotional for me to go back, and I took my daughter with me because I was at her age. So I just wanted to show her, where I lived in her times. So and then I came to Izmir, and we have a club here. We have a club with 65 members. It's a wonderful club. And last night we had a meeting where the national president of Turkey joined us as well. Also, the mayor of Çeşme joined us. Actually, Sadık was here, the national president. He just left. And from here tomorrow, we're supposed to fly to Istanbul. I'm saying supposed because my daughter got a heat stroke. She's actually in the room, and I have to get back to her. Yeah. So she's just having some, side effects with that. So maybe we might extend our stay a day. I haven't decided, but next stop is Istanbul. Istanbul is celebrating their 66th anniversary. So we will be there. Director Annette is joining us, very excited. Julia will be there, as well as, another past world president, Salih Çene will be there. It will be a great event. And after that, on the 30th, I'm flying to Paris for the 19th anniversary. That's very excited. So exciting event. So yeah, it's just a busy next few days, but all good things. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Very much appreciated. We can repeat this again, maybe in a couple of months, if you want to get further updates where we are, what we are doing, where we are going. It's always good to, stay in touch with the industry, with our members and, industry members who would be interested to join our network, become a Skal member, because, this gives an opportunity. Joining our network gives you an opportunity to be connected in 84 countries with, decision makers and do business among friends. So we are an organization that connects tourism globally. Thank you very much, Jürgen.
Yeah, thank you very much.
And all of our Skalics, cheers, Skal. I see Neil got his glass up. So thank you very much for everyone joining. It was so great to see you all.
No, it was great to see you too, Bertrand, anyone. And everyone who wanted to see who's watching us live and you missed the first part of it, just stay tuned. You're going to see it again in 2 hours, and every 2 hours for the next 24 hours, it's going to play on all our channels at eTurbo News. You will also see it on our breakingnewsshow.com, and it'll be archived on YouTube for many years to come. So if you want to see how things go in a few years from now and see what Bertrand said today, you can always test us. So thank you very much for
all right. Well, thank you for that. All right. Have a good night, all.
Enjoy and best wishes to your daughter, Bertrand. I hope she's
thank you very much.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you. Bye.
Aloha from here. Good night. Bye-bye.
Good night. Thank you.